You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, this is Richard Estep, ghostwriter, and from TV's Haunted Hospitals, Paranormal Investigators, Haunted Case Files, and Paranormal 911, and you are listening to PSH Radio on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back again for another week, and we have another interesting guest on this week who I shall get on very shortly. His name is Kenny Attison. We have known him for God knows how many years now. It's been a while since we've had him on. Obviously, I believe he's the founder of Lights Paranormal, but we'll find out if I got that wrong in a minute. So, good evening, Kenny.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I am doing very well despite my illness. and I am indeed the founder of Lights Paranormal.
I forget these things. It's been so long, you know.
Yes, to put a twist on the Maury Povich thing, you are the founder.
So, what have you been up to? Because obviously it's been ages.
I'm just, I unfortunately had to take investigation, back a notch, because of obvious health issues that I've been having. But, we're still going full force, on social media. We're helping people out, online. And, we're still getting a very, very huge influx of questions, of inquiries about investigation. We've actually teamed up with a couple of other investigation groups on Long Island. So at least if there is something pressing that has to be investigated, we're able to tap into other resources and vice versa as well. So a lot of even though we had to take a step back, we're actually still very much moving forward and just improving our range of being able to help people when they need it. So it's still good things.
Mm-hmm. So obviously I know you do private cases. So do you do just go to a haunted location as well, or do you just do private cases?
Oh, we mainly get residential cases, which are private cases. We don't really get that many commercial cases. There's not too many places by us that you're actually allowed to go into, unless they call. But most of the really intriguing places that you would want to investigate are either state owned, or there's just a bunch of red tape to even try to get in there to investigate. So yeah, most of our cases are residential and private.
Mm. So obviously with you, so how many residential cases have you actually done?
We've done about 20 plus. For physical investigations, we've done 20 plus. With online inquiries, that goes into the hundreds. So it's we've done quite a lot. Online, we're able to help people more in real time when it's just through text or through, email correspondence, because at least, there's no setting up of equipment. There's no, just, normal physical, I guess not, what's the word for it? It just goes a lot faster. So, a lot of times, we're able to resolve things, through corresponding online and corresponding through email as well. We always try to empower them. We have kind of like a filtration system where it's, we don't go to every location that, that says, we're experiencing this. We ask a series of questions, and we kind of like filter out to see, like if there's absolutely no other, no other remedy besides an actual investigation, and that's not because, we don't want to help. It's just because a lot of times we want to empower, the homeowner to be able to do these things themselves, because what we've found is that, investigators could go in and do everything, and a lot of times it will help, but a lot of times also things will go back to the way they were because the owner is still scared of living in their own house. The owner is apprehensive about doing anything out of fear of, it might cause more activity than before. So a big part of how we, try to help people as well is to empower them to take ownership of their house or apartment or wherever they're living. And, we give them, a tool set of things that they could use and do to improve. And that's been quite effective as well. It's a lot faster and it's a lot stronger too, because, just like whatever might be attached to that place or whatever they're experiencing, they have an attachment to that location as well, because that's where they're living. So, it's a lot more powerful for them to remedy the situation, than what we could ever do, because we don't have that attachment to that location as much as they do.
So Kenny, do you feel sometimes that some of the cases that you look into, it can be around the actual person instead of the actual location then?
Oh yeah, that's always a possibility as well. Some people just are natural, magnets for activity, I myself included, and my daughter is starting to find that out. I'm starting to have to, I have to have one of those paranormal talks with her, like, you would do if, when they're going into adolescence, so it's, it's more of, it's a lot of reassurance when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's very, that's a definite possibility besides the actual location being haunted, is that the person, themselves can be haunted as well.
So do you just keep around the Rhode Island area, or do you go further afield, or do you just go wherever it needs to? We mostly do Long Island. We have done, cases in Queens and the Tri-Borough area, but we try to stick to Long Island because, a lot of our schedules are overlapping when it comes to work and just, regular, life in general. But I mean, that's also why, we try to reserve actual investigations to things that are, not extreme cases, but very solid cases of the person, they do need help to the point where they cannot do it themselves at that moment. So, and it reserves our energy for those, very serious cases. And it also, it just makes it a little bit easier when it comes to getting everybody together and we're more prepared to do those things. So talking about, obviously, Lights Paranormal, what is the setup? How many is in the team? What sort of makeup are they? Are they, you got believers, skeptics, and mediums? How is the team set up?
Right now we have 6 people on the team. One unfortunately moved to Florida. So but he's still very much a role model in the. Not a role model. He very much still plays a role in our team and what we do. With research or whatnot. We have a skeptic on our team. Someone that's very much a scientific mindset, not much a spiritual mindset. And that's to ensure what we're hearing and seeing, if we do catch something, is actually something that we're doing. And it brings, you have to have the balance. So he definitely does bring balance to the team. We do have a couple of intuitive mediums. We have an empath like myself and our teammate Laura. So we're a very kind of spiritual team, but we try to keep the balance. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that are sensitive to things, that are paranormal and are spiritually aware. So having him on the team definitely counteracts that. So if there is something that is explainable or something that historically speaking happened where it doesn't match up with what's going on, then he'll find that out and he'll bring that to the attention of both our team and the owner as well.
Okay. So when obviously you get cases that come in, as you've just said before about you take a judgment call, you empower the person there with their own toolkit to see what goes on. When do you make a decision that it's becoming that the team needs to go in?
We usually correspond with the person for, not just like once or twice. I mean, we usually correspond with them for at least a month, and see how things are working out, because, the first thing we usually tell them is to have a house blessing, and to use sage, to use, to speak, to verbally speak out, and I'm sorry. It's like the sickness is trying to intercede in my conversation, so I apologize.
It's okay.
But, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna get a stuffy nose right now. But what was I gonna say? We tell them to speak out and to take ownership of their location. With saying this is what I need you to do. Either you respect the rules of this house, or you're going to be asked to leave. A lot of times I find that just simple things like that go a very long way. And even if it doesn't, it's not instantaneous, and I tell, our clients this, it's not going to happen overnight where, everything is magic. It's not like TV shows where everything's condensed into a half an hour or an hour and everything's hunky-dory afterwards. It takes at least a few weeks of, assertive behavior, assertive routine, of blessing the house, of burning the sage, of speaking out, and being assertive to these spirits. Now I always tell them, because it's very easy to fall into the aggressive kind of mindset of when you're speaking, to spirit or whatever. I tell them, you always remain assertive. You have the ability to say what you want, but not in a negative or an aggressive manner, because then that also attracts other things potentially, that could be a lot worse than what they're experiencing already, because you're setting a negative tone instead of a more positive one. Mm-hmm. So pretty much, if all that's said and done,
that doesn't work, then we decide, okay, well then we're going to have to come in and we'll see we'll see more precisely what you're dealing with, what's going on, and then we'll take the next step. We do things in stages, so it's more effective and more efficient at helping the person resolve whatever issue they're having.
Mm-hmm. So how do you go to obviously say, right, we need to go into a residential? Do they send you evidence, or is it just that you speak to them on the phone or whatever, and then you're like, yeah, we need to go into the house?
Well, once we determine that they want an investigation, because sometimes they'll just be like, oh, I guess we'll have to deal with it, and we don't pry ourselves into people's lives because, there's a bunch of strangers coming in their house and setting up all sorts of stuff. It's also kind of disruptive as well, which is why we kind of save that for the last resort, for like phase 2 of what we do, you know what I mean? So, so once we get the okay from the owner that it's okay to investigate that residence, then we go in, we set our equipment up. They don't necessarily have to send us evidence. A lot of times they don't know what to do or how things are exactly work or whatnot. And if they do have evidence, then they usually share that with us. The first line of contact that we have with them. So if it's determined that there is something in a photograph or that there is a very strong EVP, and it's something that they are unable to manage on their own, then yes, we come in and then we do our investigation and, we take it up a notch. We always do a house blessing at the end. We go into an investigation with okay, let me rephrase that again. Here we go. When we go into an investigation, we usually bless ourselves as well because we don't want to, bring any of our, energy or things that are with us to that location. So we try to be very clean when it comes, to, physicality and spirituality as well. But a lot of times, once we've established things, and it's usually nothing that bad that can't be resolved, with just continuing to continuing to have the owner and the residents empower themselves and take ownership, and we usually give them some a couple of crystals and a couple of pendants to keep on them or to place in places where they feel that it's needed and whatnot. So with everything, we've had a pretty good success rate. We haven't had really like any reoccurrences since we've investigated and stuff like that. We do, once every blue moon, we get somebody that, and not to speak badly about anybody, but get, some people that are just intent on wanting to have a haunted location where, nothing that we say or do or anything like that, helps any. And then, at that point we say, well, then we would suggest getting, your local priest, and they never follow through with that. It's a funny situation, because it's like, it's not like you don't want to help. It's just that they're not accepting the help. And it kind of sounds sometimes like they want their house to be haunted just so, it's like a game kind of sort of. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately we've had like 1 or 2 cases of that, where we actually had to, refer them to somebody else because we personally did everything that we could do. And, unfortunately when, the references that we do, hand those cases to, they've come back and said, we've done everything we could do. And, they just don't want to, they're not complying or, they're not, it's just impossible. And it winds up, a lot of times it winds up being a case where, that person also might have an illness of some sort as well, where they're experiencing things and they don't want to, change. And it's an unfortunate situation. Not saying that we haven't had cases of, we've also had cases of people that have had, PTSD, where, that they thought they were experiencing, paranormal activity, but it was because of their PTSD that they were experiencing these things. Mm-hmm. And, we also, help them receive the help that they needed in that. And they've been very happy with that too. There's these people that have had mental illness that have come to us, so that's also why that filtration system is in place too, because, if we were just to investigate every single, case that we've had without exploring, the backstory behind it and the conditions of whatever they're experiencing, then we would unfortunately be wasting their time more than actually helping them. Yeah. So that's why we have that process in place as well, which, even with those, we've had very successful, remedies to that, where they just needed to, they were in a situation that they didn't realize was as stressful as they thought it was, or they recently had something stressful going on where it was subconsciously affecting them. There's a lot of factors, but thankfully we've been very in tune to these cases, and we've handled them pretty well. And we've had very good outcomes.
I think at the end of the day, Kenny, it's also down to the duty of care as well, because, like you said, sometimes that it's not paranormal. It can be infused by the person there via a trauma or PTSD or something like that. So they believe something is happening paranormal. So you go in and reassure them and then point them in the direction to get some proper help.
Exactly. Whether it be paranormal or not, helping people is what we do. And, the good part is that we're able to identify these things when they aren't paranormal, so we could help them. It's not like, oh, well, there's no ghosts involved or whatever, so we can't help you. We follow through with that just as the same as if it was a case of it being something, supernatural or whatnot. So.
Okay. So when you make a decision that you're going to go in and you, excuse me a second, so you make a decision that team's going to go in, you obviously, this is after a period of time that you've discussed and you get to the point where you think you need to. What is your understanding when you go in? How do you set up? Are you there just for a short period of time, or is it potentially over a long period of time? How do you set up your equipment, or is it more of the spiritualist side?
What we do is before we even set up any equipment, we go around, we take base readings, we go in and intuitively do a research of the house. We also do a physical and historical research of the house and its surrounding locations, for anything that, kind of comes up or, throws a red flag of something supporting that what they're experiencing, because there's different factors that could play into it. So we don't just go and set up, all of our equipment and then that's that. We also, because when we do a full blown investigation, we are there for at least 4 hours, because you're not going to catch anything within an hour's time or even a couple hours. And sometimes we'll even go in multiple times, to see what's going on. We try not to be invasive, but at the same time, we do want to get to the bottom of, whatever might be there for us to warrant a full blown investigation. So, along with the understanding of the owner on that, then we work together with them and, we'll set up, we'll do full run of of equipment and whatnot, and then we'll see what we get from there. Like one residential investigation we had, they were experiencing lightheadedness, nausea, and things of that nature. And during the pre-investigation, we found that there was an electrical main running through the center of the house that happened to be going right down the hallway upstairs.
Mm. And
then downstairs, where they were experiencing things, it was the same thing. They just didn't put two and two together for that. So, that's it's something to check off your list before, actually investigating. So, you can concentrate on more selective areas during the investigation.
Yeah, because obviously high EMF and all that sort of stuff gives you paranoia, hallucinations, etc., etc. So that is something, because I know that there's been things that I've looked into where you've had people experiencing vivid hallucinations while they're in bed, and then they find out that running behind their bed at the back of the wall is the main power into the house. So there's the high EMF field kicking off on it, which is affecting their sleep pattern and their brainwaves.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is like the thing, isn't it? Because it's like, obviously, like a lot of investigators say, everything's not paranormal, so...
No, exactly. And it helps define better. It helped. When something does happen, wow, I'm trying to talk and things are not coming out. It actually helps when there is something that is unexplained, because if you're a lot of people say, well, you need proof. Well, the whole thing is that the lack of proof is also proof in itself, because if there's something that's explainable, once you take out all those different explainable things, then you start getting more to the point of things that are out of the ordinary, and it helps actually make those evidentiary things more concrete, because if nobody's ever experienced that, if there's something that is not typical of that area, something that's not just absolutely non-explainable, then that solidifies that evidence even more, because we did go through all of the venues, to ensure that everything that was possibly explainable is cleared out,
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had cases what involve children? Children in the family, not just children.
We've had a couple of cases. We don't really have the kids there when we do investigations, or if they are, that they're with their parents, in a certain area, because we don't want them to. It's a very overwhelming situation to see all these people coming in and setting up all the stuff. They don't know what's going on, and we don't want to disrupt them as well. But we have done situations where there were children involved in what they were experiencing. So.
Mm. Yeah, because obviously it's, I suppose, if you're doing I'm trying to see, I can't get my words out now. So if obviously there's cases where obviously there's only activity, you have to obviously look at children, because obviously they have a huge a huge imagination, don't they? So.
Oh yeah, and we've had a lot of inquiries about that too, where grandchildren have been experienced. My grandson, my granddaughter, my daughter, and they're experiencing this. And I usually tell them, I said, because at that stage you can't tell, if something is imaginary
or very real. But we tell them, see what you could find out, with the house, see what you could, see if there's anything that proves that child's, story or whatnot. But I always tell them, regardless of whether it's real or, imaginary, show them support, be very positive, with handling the situation, because, it's very important to be able to, even if it is imaginary, that's only going to last a certain amount of time until the child realizes, this is real and this is not, and they kind of grow out of it. But if it is something real, at least they have that support system where it's not like, stop lying, you're not, and being derogatory towards what the child is experiencing, because if it is real, then that's very damaging to, and it makes the child feel isolated, where, there's the most important people in their life don't believe them, or they think they're lying, or they're being punished by their loved ones. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Yeah. They have to obviously have the same support network, don't they? Because obviously kids are more to, obviously, like you say, being isolated. I'm not saying like adults feel like they can be isolated either if they haven't got that support system in place.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's regardless if you're a child or an adult, it's nice to know that somebody else is experiencing something or something similar to you. It doesn't make you feel alone, and that's something that we try to, help, whoever our clientele is that, you're not alone. We've experienced stuff as well. You're not crazy. Because that's usually the first open liners. You're going to think I'm crazy, but, et cetera, et cetera. And, we tell them, listen, nothing is crazy. We've heard a lot of things. Let's talk about what you're experiencing, and then we'll see what's going on, and that usually puts them at ease, so it's, regardless of the age, it's good to, show support and understanding, when it comes to dealing with somebody experiencing, activity or whatnot.
Yeah, and I guess you obviously have to get that to know them people as a person as well, don't you?
Oh yeah. You try to, we try to do that, as quickly but as accurate as possible. Unfortunately, sometimes it works out where, like I was saying before, we had a case where I was trying to help this woman for almost 2 years, and she was claiming some radical things happening at her house, and we did want to actually investigate there, but then she wouldn't allow us to investigate, and it was very trying, the process, to try to help her, because like I said, some people unfortunately don't want help. They just want to remain in that state of, I guess, victimization, where it's like, well, you can't help me, but I'm still experiencing all this stuff. And there was times that woman actually got pretty verbal and not very nice to us, and we still stuck in there, and we tried to help her out, despite, and I think there was definitely more underlying issues than something paranormal in that case, and it was unfortunate that there was nothing that we could do to help her, because she didn't want the help when it came down to actually doing something about it. So we stuck in there, and she gradually faded out, and we wished her the best. We wrote one last, message of encouragement and support to her. And, unfortunately we haven't heard from her since, but, we hope, we always hope that, people in those cases do eventually get the help that they, that they deserve, and that they're looking for, I guess, to some degree. But, it's those cases that,
it's a losing battle with that person within themselves before anybody else could help them, and until they, they actually want the help on a very real basis, then, unfortunately they're spinning their wheels, and then anybody that they do ask for help is going to spin their wheels as well. Yeah.
So moving on a little bit, obviously you founded Lights Paranormal because you had a long-standing passion for the paranormal. So how did your passion in the paranormal first begin?
Well, it began with my own experiences. I've been experiencing things for almost my entire life. My first memory was of something paranormal happening, and when I was still, I was about 4 years old, and it's been ups and downs in learning and finding out, information and exploring my spirituality and what all these things mean and, what's going on with it. And then, eventually I decided that, there's other people that experienced it, that I'm close with as well. So, in 2012, we decided, hey, let's form a team and help others that are experiencing the same thing or experiencing things themselves. So that's where Lights was founded, and we've been helping people ever since.
So can you remember what you experienced when you were 4?
There was I was still sleeping in my parents' bed, and at night there was like a mist, kind of tornado-looking thing in the corner of the room, and it wasn't scary or anything. It was just very, I remember having the feelings of just knowing that something is there, and I'm like, what is this? And I was intrigued by it, and I never really found out what it was, but the whole thing is that's what started, the whole what would be my lifetime experiences of dealing with things. So, I've experienced, nice things. I've experienced not so nice things, but, it's been a learning process, and, I continue to learn and, try to help people out with, newfound knowledge that I receive. And it's been pretty rewarding when it comes to that.
So when did you start to realize that you were an empath, sensitive on your journey? When did you suddenly realize that, hang on, I'm actually feeling and doing stuff like that? When did that actually suddenly come to the forefront?
Well, actually, it was one of our investigators that helped me realize that, because I knew I had these feelings. I knew I was experiencing certain things, and I just didn't know there was a name for it. So when we started talking more about it, she was like, you sound like an empath. And then she turned me on to, other people that are intuitive and empaths, I just started learning from there. And a lot of, that's when a lot of pieces, started fitting together as to why and how things were going on, and it just helped fill in a lot of, empty spaces that I've always had questions about. So that was one of the most pivotal, times, in my spiritual journey, I guess, is that finding that out. Unfortunately, that wasn't until, about, 11 years ago that I found that out. But, even still, it's better late than never, I guess. And, ever since then, it's been a lot easier in dealing with things, when you know the reason, the why and how and whatnot.
So over the period of time that you've been doing this, and since I've known you for a little while, you've sent me some very interesting photos and videos. One of the videos that you sent me was not so long ago when you picked up on a child. When I think, were you in Tombstone or?
No.
Where were you?
I think if it's the one that I'm thinking about, I think it's the one that's in my house.
Sorry, yeah. I get sent so many, but I thought there was one that you were on a street and you were talking, and then all of a sudden you on the video you heard a voice.
Oh, you know what? I'm trying to remember this. So there's so many different ones. I'm like, which one was that?
Hang on, you keep talking. Keep telling us about your experience. Tell us about the one in your house while I go back to the...
Well, that one was actually quite interesting in itself as well, because the 12-year-old girl that is in my house did not show up until my daughter was born.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting in the sense where she just kind of like came to hang out with my daughter, and she's been wanting to. It's really interesting and kind of hilarious because it's just a kid being a kid, but she's not alive. So it's like, and the interesting part is that recently my daughter started hearing her, a lot more, because she would mainly, the girl would mainly, communicate with me. And, she would express her frustration with wanting to play with my daughter, but my daughter didn't understand and she couldn't hear her, and she actually left for a little bit because she was very sad. I know it sounds completely crazy, but it's like that it's, it's like, unless you experience it yourself, you wouldn't believe it, but I would say about I guess a couple of months back, my daughter was laying in bed and she heard her name, and it was a question, Gianna, and she actually was kind of protecting her from two other, energies that were in the room at the time. And it's really interesting stuff. That she's able to, that she's taken a liking to my daughter. I mean, it's like, my daughter is 11 now, so she's right around the age of what the girl is, but the girl has been 12 for the past 11 years. You know what I mean? So it's like my daughter is finally catching up to how old the girl is. So I think the girl is realizing that, and she made herself, I don't know when, because, she hasn't really, I haven't really heard from her, that much until when my daughter said something. So, my daughter started asking a lot of questions, and, again, because she's always had she's like me, she has the gift. It's just that she doesn't know, she's not at that stage where she's, able to kind of like, I guess you say, understand it, and understand its entirety. So, I try to tell her in bits and pieces as she gets older, when she's more capable of understanding. But, she was like, well, how do I talk to her? What do I say? I'm like, say anything you want to her. I said, she's wanting to play with you, and, she's been wanting to play with you for a very long time, so she's like, well, how do I play with that? I'm like, play with her like you would play with anybody, include her or just say hi to her, and I think she's been doing that. So, and that's one of the, it's one of the more happier hauntings, because I do get, unfortunately, not so good stuff in my house sometimes because of me. So it's nice to know that my daughter's experiencing, a little bit of the lighter side of the paranormal, because sometimes those things will, not as much as me, but sometimes she'll experience, not so good things. And then, I have to play daddy on the other side of the veil and tell them to knock it off. You know what I mean? So it's like, so it's like you're protecting her in this life and then another life, another realm of existence too, so it's very interesting stuff, but it's, it is what it is. And it's all interesting and it's just another day, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's good though, because obviously you do it, so I think it's obviously good for her as well, because obviously you're a father, so she knows that obviously she can come to you if she senses things, and you're not going to be like, "Are you crazy?"
Oh yeah, I've told her, because she started experiencing things even before I wanted to start telling her anything, because I don't want to. It's a lot of stuff to handle when it comes to like, when you're dealing with the other side of things, where it's, I don't want to put her in any jeopardy. Usually I would, if I started feeling stuff in the room, I would sage it while, she's not at home or she's downstairs, and, do cleansing and stuff like that when she's generally not around. So, she doesn't get influenced by any of my stuff. You know what I mean? But, now she's like, which is pretty much, what happened to me is when I think I was a little bit older. No, you know what? Actually, I was right around her age, probably a couple of years, probably around 9, I guess, is when I started experiencing more of like the not so nice energies. I don't know why that just kind of happens. I guess I don't know whether it's, it has something to do with adolescence or whatnot, but, she's started coming to me with, I felt somebody trying to lay on me, and, I didn't know, what it was. And cause I kind of, cause she's also experienced, relatives of mine that have passed as well. So, I kind of tried to, at that time I tried to teach her how to identify those energies, that are familiar and not ones that are not familiar. So she, it's kind of like, stranger danger, but for the paranormal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of out there stuff, but it's when you're living it, it's just like normal. Oh, well, if you don't know who they are and you don't like what they're doing, then you got to tell them to leave. And if they don't leave, then you come tell me, and I'll I'll tell them to leave and whatnot, and and we'll go from there. So it's very interesting.
So
I've used the word like 15 times, but it is.
So by the sounds of it, your daughter's is sort of progressing on the same sort of way that you progressed. So do you see some of you in her, i.e. paranormal wise, that she's obviously now picking up on stuff that you did? Do you think she might have? Obviously, she's interested in what you do. So can you see her going down the family path?
I think it's possible. I mean, when she was younger, and she heard about lights, she was like, oh, I want to do it too. So I got her a little shirt, Lights Paranormal shirt and whatnot. She looked at it more like that's my dad. I'm proud of my dad thing, and I kind of wanted to always keep that. I wanted to keep it separate from her.
Yeah.
Because I never want what I'm dealing with to spill over onto her. I always tried to keep it separate, but as she's gotten older, because she's been seeing. She actually has more of an affection towards animals, so she's seen a lot more animals than actually humans, because that's what she, it's kind of like one of those things where you see what you want to see. So, and that's kind of like been her protection. But now that she's getting older and starting to comprehend more and starting to express herself more, then, now she's, starting to see, other things and experience other things rather than just mostly animals. Because, not that she hasn't experienced other things, but not as much as she is now. And, it does have a lot to do with adolescence, and, and you always try to separate, even at her stage, and where I was at her stage, you have to identify what, is real and what could be, emotions at the time, because, during adolescence, your senses are more heightened because of your body's,
responses and changes. So things are heightened during that stage. So, the main part that I try to impress on her, though, is that she's not alone. She could always talk to me about anything. So that's been helping a lot. And, sometimes I do have to say, I do have to tell, don't worry, just, tell them not to bother you and go to sleep, because, sometimes I don't want her to know fully what's around us. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Not, I don't want her to, it's kind of like they might not have a fix on her yet.
Yeah.
And I don't want to throw her into that, because with me, I had no choice. I was just thrown into it and I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I would just be laying there at night, scared out of my mind because I saw all these crazy looking things. You know what I mean? So it's I don't want to throw her into that until she starts presenting that. And then I go to the next stage of, helping her understand and helping her, remedy that, sort of situation.
Okay.
But thankfully, it's so good.
So, what's new? What's next for you guys? What are you currently working on? What have you got? Anything happening in the next few months that you're looking for?
We're just continuing to do what we've been doing. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do actual physical investigations. Because of my health situations with my back and my fibromyalgia and whatnot. But, we try to still be as much of a presence as we were. It's just, unfortunately, we had to take a step back from physical investigations. So, but we're still helping people. We're still open, we're still open. We're not going anywhere, and hopefully, hopefully once I get my health situation straightened out, then we'll be back in absolute full force and doing what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's cool. So just because I know we're the hour's flying by at the moment, and we've got only a few minutes left. So I know you guys, particularly yourself, Kenny, you've got quite a high profile on social media. You post links, you post this, that, and the other. Do you find that with social media is now becoming more of an outlet for paranormal teams at the moment, just to keep everything aware of what's going on, or do you find that sometimes it can be a hindrance?
Social media has its ups and downsides, so I mean, it could be, it depends on the person's intention, like teams like ours, we're there to genuinely help people and we do. And unfortunately, you have to have the other side of the spectrum where unfortunately you have teams out there that are just looking, for the spotlight, their 15 minutes of fame. And unfortunately, there's also a lot of, crawling over people and underhandedness going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it all comes down to the person or group's intentions. And, you're always going to find both out there. But, I think people generally find out pretty quick who's in it for the right reason and who's just in it for, for some sort of gain.
Yeah, because I think at the moment, particularly in the UK, excuse me a second. Yeah, I think particularly in the moment in the UK, there's particularly on social media, you've got this whole one-upmanship. I'm better than these. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And then I want to put these people down. There's no unity. Because at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same reason. We're all in it to get explanation of what's going on. But I think sometimes it gets lost on social media in particular, where it becomes more of a look at me type thing, and I'm going to poo-poo everybody else. Do you find that happens in the States, or is there a more community out there?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a global thing. Unfortunately, location doesn't guarantee a lesser presence of ego. And that's pretty much what that comes down to is, that person has an ego and they need to put others down to make themselves look better, or, you always get people out there, and especially, with, spirit boxes, spirit box creators and stuff, you find more of that in that area because, of course they want to promote their product, but, unfortunately a lot of times you see, a lot of fallout and a lot of divide, and that has to stop happening, because, there's people out there that need help, and that should be the first priority. And, and it doesn't matter whose works better than whose, because they all work to some degree. It just depends on the end user and how well it works for them. And whether that box is, or, whether that box or that app or whatever device that they're using is in tune with them to get whatever whatever evidence that they need, because they're all essentially just tools and devices. It's us that activates them and makes them, actually, work. Not everything is going to work for everybody, unfortunately. So, people kind of miss that idea as well. And then you'll see negative reviews and people, saying, oh, well, this person's a fraud. They don't, they make stuff that doesn't work. And more than enough times, it's not that the person's an actual fraud. It's just that their device simply doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
But on occasions there has been situations where somebody was actually just really defrauding the heck out of people, and those people you don't hear from for a very long time because, that they're soon found out and kind of, brushed aside. But, all in all, there's no place anywhere for ego, and unfortunately it is in the paranormal field as well, very strong in the paranormal field.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to do my last wrap up and I'm going to pass it back to Sam. Kenny, I would just like to thank you for coming on personally. You were on one of my first shows when we did PSH Radio back on the old network, and you also came back. You were one of my first interviews after we had a little bit of a break, and now we're on the new network. So I just want to thank you for your friendship and coming on again. I'm just going to pass you back over to Sam.
So, just another quick question. Do you think Facebook Lives are good for investigations now?
Facebook Live?
Yeah. I don't know if you follow people, because obviously we follow a lot of people and they do Facebook Lives.
Yeah, it's good for catching live stuff, but a lot of, if you were to go by, how EVPs are essentially caught, and, it's technically an EVP is something that has been recorded that, wasn't there on the actual thing to begin, device to begin with. And, sometimes, if you're not catching auditory things, then it might not pick up. But I mean, it's another medium that you could use. I don't see any problem with it. The whole thing though is that my suggestion would be you still need, an actual voice recorder, because in case, the more tools you use, the better, and that's kind of, how I try to look at things, and, it's just more tools to be able to document what is being experienced. So, I mean, Facebook Live, yeah, as long as it's not hindering any other, ways of investigation, like, I only do Facebook Live now instead of carrying, like a voice recorder or whatever. I mean, it really depends. Cause I mean, I guess you could also roll it back and then see because it is recorded media. I have no idea. But yeah, I don't see any problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, no, it's all right. And obviously, you have to put into consideration if you're using your mobile phone and your internet that it can super affect K2 meters as well.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, hopefully people that have investigated before will know that. It's like it's got its up and down points. I guess I've never done it personally because it's just like I like the intimacy of having feeling we're there. You know what I mean? And there's it's like with me, I think I would find it kind of as a distraction because did the feed give out and blah blah blah. How many people are watching? You know what I mean? It would kind of I think for me at least, it would kind of deter me from what we're actually there to do. You know what I mean? But,
yeah.
If other people feel comfortable with it, the whole thing, though, is that, like you said, you have a connection. So your phone's going to be giving out EMF, radiation. So, that could be a big hindrance in your investigation as well. So, I guess there's good and bad points to it, but preferably for me, I wouldn't use it. I would wait and I would post afterwards if there's something that I want to share.
Yeah. So, would you like to give everybody your socials so they can, connect with you if they want to?
For sure. You could follow us on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/lights.paranormal. And we also have our website, which is www.lightsparanormal.org. So you could catch us at either one. We're always, keeping up with, incoming messages and whatnot. So, if there's something that you want to talk about or anything, just throw us a message. We're right there.
Cool.
Also, I just want to take a moment to thank Carl for having me on, and thank you for having me on as well. I hope Carl feels better. I'm trying to feel better. Hopefully, you don't get anything.
This time, yeah.
This has been one of the toughest interviews I've done. I've had to nip off now and again just to sort things out. So I do appreciate that. Thanks.
Well, anytime. And I always appreciate being on, and I'm very thankful for our friendship and and just all the fun we have when we're on the phone together and when we're online. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm in your neck of the woods. Well, I don't know how far away it is, but I'm in Salem in April at Salem Con. So if you're not too far away, 5th and 6th of April in Salem, pop up and say hello, and we'll meet in person.
That'd be awesome, definitely.
Cool. With that said, guys, thank you, Kenny. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. If anybody misses the shows, you can obviously go back to on our Spreaker profile, where you can catch up with the other shows on the network as well. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube. And as Kerry says, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And it's a good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.